to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this, what is today, the 13th day of September. I know tomorrow we've got a big football game on. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. Minnesota at Philadelphia Eagles. There's already some key injuries there. Pickles. Tomorrow, again, folks, going to go over daily fantasy picks. But, if you drafted these players, you want to play these players, I'll give you that tomorrow. Probably 35, maybe 40 minutes of the program. We'll talk about that. But today, I finally got a chance to really look into this Mel Tucker story, head coach of Michigan State. And, judging by what I read, this guy has a big-time countersuit possibly on his hands here. Seems like he's really getting railroaded. I'll explain that. And Jim Trotter, NFL reporter, suing the NFL for not renewing his job contract. He was a reporter for the NFL. So all of this stuff ties into each other. And so today's program is going to be a little different. I'm going to tie everything into one big idea, one big statement. I've got a point to make about Nick Saban not changing quarterbacks in the Texas game and loss. I mean, of course, there's other problems down there that Alabama's having. We'll get all that. Let's go ahead and get our first and only break out of the way, and we'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay, now, like I was saying earlier, you got to just follow me with what I'm getting with here. But before I get into this, I want everybody to know, the people who do know me that watch this program, very kind and sensitive to elderly people, including my grandmother when she was living. I feed a cat that's not even mine. I have great empathy for people being mistreated, whether they're race, gender, sex, or disability, ageism, you name it. And the people who work with me, watch this program over the years, know that I am this person. But also, I've explained to you all that I grew up in an environment where inner city schools, some of the kids that I went to school with and grew up with were friends, con artists, felons, murderers, got murdered, got killed, you name it. I mean, very lucky not to be in prison. So, but it's so I say all that to say that I really have a strong sense for con artists, people trying to run somebody else's reputation for their own betterment. I've told you all about this professor of mine at Austin P that was one of the smart mouth, swarmiest POSs I've ever dealt with in the workplace or collegiate. And I told you there was another professor I got along with really well. This woman's really nice, gave me a letter of recommendation. but she wanted me to fill out an affidavit basically saying that this guy what was racist and all that stuff. Okay. And, I like I said, I understand the history of the country. I'm empathetic. I took history in college and high school. I've been all over the country. I've lived in both coasts by myself as a young adult, and so I'm empathetic towards people, and I understand that there's prejudice and sexism and all that stuff, but for every one that's actually legit, just my opinion, backed up by what I'm about to tell you, there's 10 Jesse Smolletts out there, folks, and it just rubs me the wrong way. And it's politically incorrect for me to say that, but that's why I do the program, right? This is why I do the program. So I can really say what I want, And those of you know me, I'm coming from a good place here, folks, but I'm just not going to listen to the BS. And when I see it's BS, what is it? I can't believe my lying eyes. Is that what it is? So just listen up. All right. All that being said, Mel Tucker, Michigan State football coach. This went down last weekend. Had a lot of NFL stuff I wanted to get to first. Basically, Tucker came over from Colorado, was hired in 2019, come over to Michigan State. First year, 2020, didn't have a good year that year. Nobody did. Everybody, and I said this then, everybody should have got a break in 2020 on coaching because of all the COVID stuff. It was crazy, right? But in 2021, transfer portal, man, they have a great season. I remember I was playing, I was first year really betting and wagering. Got players like Kenneth Walker, who's now with the Seattle Seahawks, ran the ball well. They went 11-2. And this guy gets a huge 11 year deal, $90-something million extension. And I thought to myself, wow, that is kind of soon. That is a little soon, right? And I thought about coaches like Charlie Weiss, former New England Patriot coach, offensive coordinator, first year at Notre Dame, who had been slipping for a while. 2005 goes 9-3, and just he was a hair away from beating that powerhouse USC team. It was a controversial call. I think it was Reggie Bush or somebody that pushed. What was the guy's name? The quarterback for USC in the end zone. So he gets this huge extension right off the bat. Didn't do too bad in the next year. I think he had 3 losses. But then he falls off the cliff and goes 3-9, and they fire him about 3 or 4 years in that massive contract extension. But I say all this to say Mel Tucker. So he hires this lady, this sexual assault survivor, okay, to speak with the team about how to, not to realize, not to be involved in any kind of sexual assault cases or anything like that. Her lady's name is Brenda Tracy, okay. She was an independent contractor, Brenda Tracy. Matt Leinart, thank you, Pickles. I had a brain cramp there, What would I do without Pickles and Carlos and Court? So he hires this woman to speak to the team. And, she goes around and, like Jason Whitlock, I got some clips at Whitlock. He says, why are you hiring this person to do this stuff? You should be telling these players, be respectful. No means no. You don't need to hire a lady to do that. An outside. So I thought that's pretty good. I'll play that clip later. So he hires this woman, makes her in 22. She comes back. I think she speaks at different classes when they've got new players coming in, right? Do you follow me? And he was, according to him, he was estranged from his wife, separated or whatever. All right. and they become friends. And one thing leads to another. This woman's traveling all over the place. And I'm going to clean this up as much as I can. But in April of 2022, last April, he's in like Florida, right? She's in like Oregon. They've been numerous calling back in each other for getting chummy, in air quotes, with each other, and he engages in, and I'm cleaning it up, phone sex. Okay. She, after he's fondling himself, she claims while being in Oregon, she was too scared to hang up the phone. You know, he's multiple states over. Too scared to hang up the phone. I think after this incident happens, she claims that he cut her off from employment the last time to come in to speak to the team, which was in July. He says at scheduling conflict, you name it. I think what it was is he kind of realized, yeah, that was pretty stupid. That was a pretty dumb move on Tucker's part. But she says that she sent him a happy Father's Day in June of the same year, right? Of the same year. I think he's thinking, well, things are getting a little too heated. May want to get back with the wife. Probably need to cut this off. Bad idea. So he's not 100%, in the innocence per se. So she gets cut off from talking to the guys or whatever. Okay. And later on that year, she files a Title IX suit against this guy in December. So it sounds like something went off. They broke it off. He claims that she asked him for Venmo. See, this is after the story broke that this guy's got this massive contract, okay? He's 50 years old at this point. He's 51 now. Should realize, hey, man, you got a massive contract. You've got a massive bullseye on your back, okay? Because of that publicly stated contract there, you know? So this Title IX suit goes to court. 3 months before speak again, she concealed in-person training. Okay, yeah, July 25th, that thing got canceled. So December of 22, Brenda Tracy files a complaint against Tucker with Michigan State's Title IX office in December, and the university hires Title IX attorney Rebecca, long name, to investigate it. Starts her investigation and begins interviewing, and 6 people Tracy identifies as witnesses. Tucker doesn't agree to be interviewed until March. So this has been going on for a while. All right. And Tucker says that Tracy encouraged the pair's personal relationship by inviting and accepting gifts from the coach, including shoes and a $200 Venmo payment and a personal contribution to her nonprofit. According to Tucker, Tracy's attorney tells him it would be a lot of money to make these allegations go away. Tucker states that Tracy's twisting the story of their personal relationship to retrieve her career and destroy his life participated by her agreed to. So my thing is, this person, why did you call him back? If you're so scared, why did you send Happy Father's Day after this April incident? You spoke to him after that incident. And I like to treat women equal means you get the same amount of questions a man would in the court of public opinion. You get the same amount of questions. You get the same amount of cross-examination. You should not be immune. If you want to be treated equal to it doesn't benefit you, You want to be treated equal until it doesn't benefit you. Okay? So, as you can see, last year, this is Michigan State's angle, I think, while they're trying to really push this. We know about the Larry Nassar, the doctor or whatever, molesting the girls. The Michigan State people can say that all they want to, but the truth of the matter is he got this huge contract after 11-2 when they was in 2022. By the way, there was no actual sex. This is supposedly just phone sex, all right? No actual. Both parties say that. All right. So you guys follow me now? And so you've got these things going on concurrently. But last year, going back to he was 5-7. Now they're 2-0 this. So he's 5-7. The powers to be, and I'm about to play a soundbite here. The powers to be possibly see this as a 4-cause fight. Now, supposedly he's suspended now, but Brett McMurphy, and I think he's from like Action Network. This guy used to work with Fox and ESPN. Says that he's going to be fired as of Saturday, and he still stands by that. He's supposed to be going to be fired and still stand. This sounds like that they're thinking, okay, we made a mistake Notre Dame did with Charlie Weiss. We could fire him for cause and get out of this massive contract here. You know? And this woman's thinking, well, I can get a lot of money for this too. You know, this guy shunned me, something with maybe he come to us. I don't know. So I'll get some money out of him and we'll move and we'll be able to do our thing. That's all the facts that I'm getting. I've read through USA Today story. I read through a long timeline on the Athletic, which the New York Times, not necessarily pro Mel Tucker, pro guy, owns the Athletic. And that's the timeline there in a nutshell for this thing. So here's Jason Whitlock. I think it was a pretty interesting take on, let me see, what did he say here? Let me make sure I got everything here in a nutshell. On why people are taking advantage of this diversity, equity, inclusion thing. Why people are taking advantage of the whole race thing, the whole sexism thing for their own benefit. Listen up.
Division I programs, I would think, are over. Who would want to bring her in?
Okay, there's a lot of female coaches that will bring her
Talking
in
about
to
Brittany
speak
Tracy.
to their kids and to have, because this is the grift and the hustle of the Me Too movement and this whole Black Lives Matter movement. You bring in all these clowns to come in and speak to your kids, and they get paid $10,000-$15,000, and you get to look how open-minded I am, look how diverse, equitable, and inclusive I am. And so the pity party will continue for Brenda Tracy, and she's brought down a man here. She's a valuable commodity that will be supported by academia and the feminists all over these college campuses. So she may be done speaking to male football teams, but there's a bunch of other teams on that campus and a bunch of other agendas on these college campuses that she can serve.
Yep. And, you know, he's got to be wise and got to have more discipline than that. Mel Tucker, I'm not saying he's totally innocent, but you can kind of see that, you know, there's a lot of railroading going on here. All right. So let me play one more clip here from that. And I've got another example of this. I got two more examples of this, folks. Okay. If I can play this last one here. More from Whitlock on this. Listen up.
Speak it to the Phoenix Suns. That booster now owns. he used Mel Tucker, and the Matt Aishba used Mel Tucker to enhance his own resume.
Matt Aishba. Who is Matt Aishba? He's the newly owner of board of governor, in air quote, of the Phoenix Suns. He's a former Michigan State basketball player who inherited his dad's business, billionaire. He says, look how diversity, equity. I'll give this black guy 1 year, coach here. We fund this because, schools don't pay these $100 million contracts. We funded this huge contract. Look, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. Matt Aishba. Guy's my age, 42 years old, worth billions. So he used that to help his resume so he can purchase the Phoenix Suns. All right.
So that he could buy the Phoenix Suns in the NBA. And so I bet she can come speak to the Phoenix Suns because she.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they're trying to get a 4 calls firing of Tucker. All right. I mean, I'm not a big I'm not a Michigan State fan, but it seems like the guy's getting railroaded. Hopefully he'll get a good legal team here. Supposedly both parties deleted these messages. It's basically her word versus his. Let's see how this thing plays out. I think the guy will rebound from this, but 30 years of coaching, coming up through the ranks, you can't let something like this get in your way of this tremendous opportunity. But anyways, okay. So another example how this is being taken advantage of, in my opinion. In other news, in the NFL, Jim Trotter, 5-year employee, he says long time, 5-year employee, reporter for the NFL, NFL.com, NFL Network, has filed a lawsuit, a racial discrimination lawsuit against him. He says it's retribution for some retaliation for some comments he made to Roger Goodell. But I've got the whole story here. Now this one's on TMZ. Same thing. Okay, about how people take advantage of these certain things. And bleep whoever else life's it ruined. Long as I get mine, I don't give 2 bleeps about Mel Tucker if I'm this lady. And so it's just the principle of the whole thing. So listen up. I'm going to let me read this story. It's another example. Took me a long time to put this together, Pickles. Ex-NFL reporter files lawsuit against NFL Albus Can for questioning Goodell. And trust me, you guys know I'm no Roger Goodell fan, but this guy's got a history, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. Just listen up. So, try to reference Jerry Jones, also owner in the lawsuit. Now the Cowboys owner responding, providing his version of a conversation the men had back in 2020. Diversity and inclusion are extremely important to me. Quote. To me personally, in the NFL, the representation made by Jim Trotter of a conversation that occurred over 3 years ago, again, with the years ago stuff, right? With myself and Vice President Personnel Will McKay is simply not accurate, Jones wrote in a statement. Bills owner Terry Peligla vehemently denies claims by Trotter in the lawsuit. The statement attributed to me and Mr. Trotter's complaint is completely false. Said in a statement, I'm horrified anyone will connect me to an allegation of this kind. Racism, no place in our society. I'm personally disgusted by my name associated with the complaint. The statement attributed to me and Mr. Trotter's complaint is completely false. I'm horrified that anyone will connect me to this allegation. Trotter, a longtime reporter and columnist, like I said, 5 years of suing the NFL, claiming his contract wasn't renewed after he pressed Roger Goodell on the league's hiring practices when it comes to minorities. Trotter was let go by the NFL because he challenged Goodell and others versus their record on race discrimination, lack of diversity. The complaint filed in New York on occasions. Trotter, an employee of the NFL-owned network, publicly grilled Goodell on this lack of black executives when the league teams included a nationally televised interview during the week leading up to the Super Bowl in February. Listen to this. And like I said, I'm no Roger Goodell guy. I'm no Roger. Are you kidding me? But listen to this back and forth, and listen to the very end how Roger Goodell, the biggest, wokest, him and Trotter on the same page on this stuff, and he still, at the very end, says, I don't think what you're saying is true. I don't. Catch this. So let me play the tape, and you guys be the judge here, okay?
Hey, Roger. Jim Trotter, NFL Media. You and other league officials have said that the league's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion extend beyond the sidelines and beyond the front offices, and is applied to all aspects of the company. I've worked in NFL media for 5 years. During those 5 years, we have never had a black person in senior management in our newsroom. That's a problem because we cover a league who, according to league data, the player population is 60 to 70% black, which means that there is no one who looks like these players at the table when decisions are being made about how they are covered. More concerning is that for a year plus now, we have never had a full-time black employee on the news desk, which again is a problem because we cover a league whose player population is 60 to 70% black, according to league data. I asked you about these things last year, and what you told me is that the league had fallen short and you were going to review all of your policies and practices to try and improve this. And yet a year later, nothing has changed. You know, James Baldwin once said that I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. And so I would ask you as an employee, when are we in the newsroom going to have a black person in senior management, and when will we have a full-time black employee on the news desk?
Well, Jim, I am not in charge of the newsroom. I think can I answer your question? As you point out, it's the same question you asked last year. And we did go back and we have reviewed everything we've been doing across the league. And we are looking at everything from vendors that we're working with to partners that we're working with to ownership where we've seen significant changes in diversity just this year. And I'm not specific, do not know specifically about the media business. We'll check in again with our people, but I am comfortable that we made significant progress across the league. I can't answer the specific questions. Some of the data you may have raised there may be accurate, maybe not. Last year, I was told some of it wasn't. We'll get to you on that. We want to make progress across the board, and that includes in the media.
Last year, I was told, listen to that last part again. Listen to that last part again.
The specific questions, some of the data you may have raised there may be accurate, maybe not. Last year, I was told some of it wasn't.
Some of it wasn't. A lot of it
wasn't.
wasn't.
Progress across the board.
You know, and this guy is constantly doing this stuff. He's got a podcast with another NFL reporter who's still with the NFL. This guy named Steve. I think his name is Watchy. I think it's either Watchy or Wozniak or whatever. But here's an interview on, it's called the Huddle and Flow. There was a really good podcast or a really good movie called Hustle and Flow. And this is called Huddle. Let me make sure it's right. I want to make sure I got it. Huddle and Flow podcast here. And he is talking to and trying to bait this guy right here. He don't care about black people being, he's a black guy, but he don't care about black executives. He wanted that soundbite on the interview before the Super Bowl so he can be a martyr and set this lawsuit up now. But this was this year. What I'm about to play you is the Huddle and Flow podcast, him and Steve Watchy, the other NFL Network employee, talking to David Culley. David Culley was a 2021 head coach, black guy, of the Houston Texans. He was hired during all this Deshaun Watson not wanting to stay there and all that stuff. And Culley, they're trying to sort all this stuff out. Culley was never a special teams guy, but he gets a shot. He takes over this team. This is a long bite. I'm going to play a little bit for you. Then we'll stop it. But David Culley wasn't having none of it. But watch how they're trying to bait this guy. They're trying, him and this other guy, trying to bait him. And listen, he's already signed his contract. He could say what he wants to. He had already been working as the head coach. So Culley been around for a long time. He had everything locked in. He had that kitty by the genitals, like my dad would say. But listen to this soundbite and tell me this guy has got the best interest of blacks, or is he got the best interest of Jim Trotter, just like the other woman example I just played for you. Listen up, folks, if I can find it. I hope I recorded it right. You know what? I may have missed that thing. Nope, here it is. Here we go.
I went in with the.
Okay, this is David Culley, the then Houston Texans head coach, explaining the process of his hiring.
Philosophy of here's what I believe in. Here's what this 27 years I've been in the NFL and the 16 years I've been in college that I have seen, and all the franchises that I have been around that have been winners. Here's the process. Here's what it has taken, and I've seen 4 of those happen, and I've been a part of that. And so, from when you asked me about the progress in this league, I look at myself as an example of saying, okay, I'm African American. I didn't have all those qualifications, but I got hired. I got hired, first of all, I think simply because they felt like I was the most qualified to do what this franchise needed to be done to get me to move it forward. Again, second thing, being an African American, great, wonderful, but I never looked at it that way. And from that standpoint, for me being hired here, I think is progress from the standpoint of saying, okay, an African American in the situation that I've been in, don't think that you don't have a chance. Don't think.
See, he's being optimistic. They didn't like that answer, Pickles. They didn't like that answer, not even a little bit.
Simply because you're 65 years old and got your AARP card, that you don't really have an opportunity to be able to bring a franchise and do what you needed to do. And I felt
Listen
that
to their
and
response.
I look at it from that standpoint. Go ahead, Jim.
Coach, let me say this to you, though. You're speaking to my point here. When you say you didn't have those qualifications, that's where I feel fundamentally the process is flawed. People try and attach certain positions to whether or not you're going to be a successful head coach, which is foolish to me. You don't have to be a coordinator. You don't have to be a QB coach. You have to first and foremost be a leader of men to be successful as a head coach. And everything else flows from there. So the fact that you had to wait almost 3 decades to even get an interview for a head coaching job says to me that the process is flawed and the way that they go about it is wrong. And add on your college coaching experience, it also speaks to that. So that's why I say, for me, personally, I hate to hear you say you didn't have those qualifications.
Now, you guys know that I've brought in another Pickles. I brought in on this program, okay, another, what's that guy's name? Pickles, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it on the program here. Another special teams coach, white guy, breaking news, who never got a shot to be an NFL head coach, okay? Remember, I'll find it real quick. Let's see. Figure It Out by Mike Westhoff. Mike Westhoff, same situation, Pickles. Same situation, Mike Westhoff, okay? And so you see how he's trying to bait David Culley. Take the bait. Come on, man, you're a victim, damn it. You're a victim. You will be a victim, because if you say you're a victim, you're going to help my brand. You're going to help my brand. That's what he's really saying, and the conversation continues.
Because
Sorry
that
about that.
feeds into this narrative that you have to be a coordinator or you have to be this to
Listen
be a
to
head
this
coach.
comeback
You
by
don't.
Culley.
You have to be a leader of men. And as Tony,
This is long and drawn out, but that's Trotter still trying to bait David Culley, right? David Culley, before he was the head coach of the Houston Texans, he was the special teams coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. I'll set it up there. Listen up.
Dungy has said to us even on this podcast, owners don't know how to hire coaches because they fall into that trap of looking for all of these things that people talk about, but can never identify exactly what they believe it is, that the traits that are necessary to be a head coach. So I'm off my soapbox on that, but I just felt me.
let me reiterate what you just said. What you just said. So
Cully's
you
response.
said about not having the qualifications and whatnot. Well, I'll say this. I got hired here because of those things of what you just said. It has nothing to do with that. I get, so from that standpoint, I'm saying this franchise, the McNair family, when I interviewed with them and when I interviewed with Nick, that was what it was all about. I can remember before Jim, before I got this interview, when Nick called me, we were actually getting ready to play Buffalo in the playoff game. And all of a sudden it says, well, when this thing is over with, we'd like to talk to you. So when will you think you might be ready to do that? I says, I'm not sure I'm ready because I got to get all my book. I got to get my book together. I got to get my information together to be able to do that. The first thing he said to me says, I don't care about a book. He says, I don't care about a book. That's not what we're looking for. You know, we're looking for.
Most of these coaches, they got these books. They've got these, when they go for, they've got PowerPoints. Mike Tomlin was one of the best at it from what I understand. They're really good at that. And they hired this guy. And I still got some more of that bite.
For somebody to leave.
He ended up getting a $36 million contract he's still getting paid on today without the book or anything. But he explains this stuff. It's a little long and winded, but it is to make a better point. Listen up. David Culley.
This football team. And again, that being said, I got so excited, Jim and Steve, simply because way back when I put together that book. I've sat with Leslie Frazier and Eric Bieniemy, and I've sat with some of these guys, and we've gotten all these things together about, okay, this is what everybody has put together to be able to, when you go into the interview, you need to show these general managers, you need to show these owners these things. Man, all I took into that interview with me was myself. I didn't have one piece of paper with me when I went into that interview. What? Not one piece of paper with me into that interview.
And they still gave him a $36 million contract.
And Ozzie Newsome, who I have the ultimate respect for, is I went in, they said, be yourself. And then I said, look, I'm not paper and pencil. You know, I'm not that. That's not who I am. You know, so again, I go back to Jim, to your point. I can't answer what you're saying about why it hasn't happened, but I just knew, though, in the example that I had, to me was an example of, again, you're looking for leaders of men, and Tony is so right. And again, that's what I feel like I've always been. Now, prior to getting this opportunity, all the other opportunities, and listen, I've been around guys probably during the last 10, 15 years that I feel like I helped get jobs, you know? I mean, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, you know, I see this happen, I see that happen, and then you start to think about it. But let me go back to why I feel like I'm here now, is that I've always been taught and told coming through this business is that the best thing you can do for getting your next job is to be the best that you can be at the job that you're at in whatever position that is. And I've taken that and I've used that. Now, have there been times when I've sat here and said, I can't use the words right here, but can I say you can? Go for it. But I'm not going to.
It's a long-winded answer, folks.
Why not me? Why can't I get an opportunity to do this? But again, I always went back to that thing of being the best that you can be at what you're doing. And again, I got to the point where it wasn't like I was looking for one, and it wasn't like if it never happened that I would be disappointed during my career. I wasn't. I was completely happy that with where I was at, with what I was doing, and still believed at some point, especially when I came to Baltimore with John Harbaugh, he reassured me. And going back to Jim, to what you said earlier about qualifications, Andy Reid didn't call plays when he became a head coach. Prior to Andy Reid becoming a head coach, we were told you needed to be a coordinator. Well, he wasn't a coordinator. He got hired. So then that one got thrown out the window because he got hired.
Coach, there are so many of those that have been thrown out the window and exceptions have been made for those. And that's part of the frustration here.
Correct.
And I think black coaches have always been told you have to follow this path, and they follow that
he goes right back to it.
And then they're not afforded the opportunity
But listen to David's
to have a shot at being a head coach.
I was one of those that have been told that. And then again, I'm going to go back and use John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh wasn't a coordinator when he got the job.
Nope.
When Ozzie Newsome hired John Harbaugh was the defensive back coach.
Yep.
And the reason he went to be a defensive back coach, and I'm just going to tell you this here too, is because he said, you know, they're not hiring special teams coaches. Well, here's a guy that's not African American that's saying, look, I'm a special teams coach. They're not going to hire me.
See, totally shut down that race-baiting nonsense that Trotter was trying to get at him. Jim Harbaugh, well, I forgot he was a special teams guy, but before he got the head coaching job, he was the defensive back coach. And then he ends up getting, now, of course, since then, he was hired, David Culley was hired as a special teams coach, but also Joe Judge, folks. Then Joe Judge, special teams coach of the Patriots, gets hired for the Giants. Now, he didn't work out either, but this guy gets a $36 million contract that is still getting paid for. The reason why they fired him because they asked him to fire some of his assistants. Culley's very loyal, and the racist, evil Houston Texans. Did they hire the white guy after that? No. You know what they did? They hired another guy, black guy. They hired the oh God, what's the guy's name? I had a good point and I forgot the coach's name. Let's see, 2022 Texans coach. I had to look this up on the spot. This is Lovie Smith. So they hired Lovie Smith, and then they fired him after 1 year. And now did they hire the white guy? Then they hired the current coach is a black guy. He's a former player of the team. You know, coach of the Texans and Miko Ryans. Miko Ryans he's another black guy. So it's this, you know. So this Jim Trotter guy, he's baiting David Culley, and he's trying to get Culley in trouble so he can help himself. See, that's my whole point to all this. And my thing is, the NFL saw that divisiveness that he's doing, trying to embarrass the league in front of national TV, and he's not coming from a good place. He's coming from a place of grandstanding, and that's probably why they fired him, in my opinion. I'd have fired. I wouldn't hire a guy like that sit there going to try to strong arm me. I don't blame him. So, but he's saying, hey, listen, man, it's fashionable, man. You know, diversity, equity, inclusion, right? So, D'Amico Ryans, thank you, Pickles. So, even this stuff there's so much corruption and so many people taking advantage of this. Even Chris Rock in his last stand-up had a few things to say about it. This is hilarious. Listen up on a lighter note, huh? Okay? Let's try some Chris Rock here.
Everybody's scared. Everybody full of shit.
Language.
You know? I'm in my own neighborhood the other day. I bumped into my good friend Fred. Hadn't seen him in years. Fred got a new job at AT&T. Okay? So I'm like, hey, Fred, how's the job? And Fred's like, ooh, I love the job. It's a safe space. I feel seen. I feel heard. There's a lot of diversity. And I'm looking at him like, nigga, it's me. What, you think I'm wearing a wire or some shit?
That guy.
What the fuck you talking about safe space? Nigga, you did 8 years for manslaughter. Nobody's safe around you. Everybody's full of shit. Everybody's scared.
So I can't say that, but I am saying it. Let's hear it one more time.
I'm in my own neighborhood the other day. I bumped into my good friend Fred. Hadn't seen him in years.
Oh, Fred.
Hadn't seen him in years. Fred got a new job at AT&T. Okay? So I'm like, hey, Fred, how's the job? And Fred's like, ooh, I love the job. It's a safe space. I feel seen. I feel heard. There's a lot of diversity. And I'm looking at him like, nigga, it's me. What, you think I'm wearing a wire or some shit? What the fuck you talking about safe space? Nigga, you did 8 years
for manslaughter. Chris Rock on non-racist yoga pants. Same skit, different joke. Gotta play it. It's too funny.
Lululemon. I walk by.
Lululemon. Never heard of them. Okay.
Every Lululemon, there's a sign that
high-end
says,
yoga
we
pants,
don't support racism, sexism, discrimination, or hate. And I'm like, who gives up? You're just selling yoga pants. I don't need your yoga pants politics. Tell me how you work on ball sweat. Lululemon. They sell $100 yoga pants. They hate somebody. They hate the poor. No. Correction. They don't sell $100 yoga pants. They sell $100 non-racist yoga pants. I think I speak for the entire audience tonight when I say most people in this crowd would prefer a pair of $20 racist yoga pants.
So he said, Chris Rock said he'd take some $20 racist yoga pants any day for whatever girl he's seeing at the time. Okay, now, last example of this. Okay, so we had a college football game. Alabama loses to Texas. Quinn Ewers lost a lot of weight, former 5-star quarterback, had Arch Manning breathing down his throat, and so far, so good. Quinn Ewers played great game against Alabama. Now, my thing is, Alabama loses by 10. Steve Sarkisian, great game. All right. So, this Jalen Moreau, second-year quarterback, black guy, he'd been there last year, had some problems with his passing game. Had some problems. For those of you who've been watching Nick Saban as long as I have, he's quick to pull a guy in a big game like this. He pulled Jalen Hurts for the national championship game because he was struggling in the national championship game in 2018 against Georgia. Puts Tua in. Rest is history. They come back, win the game. Hurts transfers. Doesn't holler races in it because he couldn't because Tua's a black guy too, right? So transfers, goes to Oklahoma, and the rest is history. Hurts is playing tomorrow night. Second contract in NFL. Worked on his game, got better. Kudos to Jalen Hurts. Didn't play the victim hard. This guy, Jalen Moreau. Now, listen, Saban is the reason why I say this is because Phil Steele, there's my Phil Steele magazine, the most accurate predictor in the history of the league. 1995, he started. One year, Phil Steele predicted that Clemson will start a true freshman at some point in that season named Trevor Lawrence. He said Trevor Lawrence will play in this. He will play. He will start at some point with a few games, probably at the beginning of the season. I thought, and I came on here and said, no, there's a fifth-year senior in there, and we know what happened that year. Trevor Lawrence came in, wins a national championship. Phil Steele predicted that this guy named, let me make sure get his name right here. His name is, hold on. His name is, let me make sure. I think I got him screenshotted. I always like to get people's names right here. I don't want to mess up. Tyler Buchner. He is a sophomore transfer from Notre Dame. Okay. This Tyler, he comes over with Tommy Rees, the quarterback coach from Notre Dame, 30-year-old quarterback coach. Tommy Rees becomes the offensive coordinator of Alabama because Bill O'Brien went to New England, right? Jalen Moreau going back to the game, interception, struggling in the game, still in the game. It's like a 10-point game at halftime. It's over one score, and I was for sure he was going to put this guy in there. I was for sure. This guy looks white. Maybe he's suspended. I don't know. But the great Nick Saban thought about, he's good friends with Stephen A. Smith. Quick to call that. He's been on Twitter a lot, Stephen A. You never know, even though they're friends, 7-time national championship coach. I'm thinking he's got to put this guy there. This Moreau kid's struggling. He's struggling, man. He's struggling right now. He's got to get back to the whiteboard. He's got to work on some things. And he never does. Because Nick Saban is scared that Stephen A. Smiths of the world, Ryan Clarks of the world, former ESPN Jamel Hills of the world is saying, you didn't let the black guy get the chance over the white guy. Because that's the only reason that I can think of. Now I'm reading Nick Saban say it's wide open. He wanted to give this guy, take a chance on the loss. Because he is over 70 years old. He didn't want to be criticized even to the little bit of the environment that we're in, Pickles. The environment that we're in right now. He wants that TV job. Nick Saban's got all the money he can spend. I'm living by the Nashville International Airport. There is a Mercedes-Benz dealership down the street here that he owns. But he likes that TV light. And he is very frustrated, Nick Saban, with the NIL stuff. We talked about that last year. He was complaining about Texas A&M getting all the recruits. And then they get the number 1 class this past year, and it didn't help them. And he don't like this transfer thing. So he didn't want to get, quote, ambushed by the media. So he don't like the transfer thing. He don't like the NIL stuff thing. He's also annoyed with losing so many assistants every single year, just about, because he's a victim of his own success, if you want to use the word victim. 7-time national championship, he still wants that TV job. And I think he's probably good for another year or two, right? But that fear that I've never thought I would see, but the Mel Tucker situation, the Jim Trotter. Jim Trotter's with the same law firm that Brian Flores is with, who's suing over another discrimination, the former coach of the Miami Dolphins here. And again, I understand. I'm empathetic towards people, but I don't have a lot of tolerance for, and maybe it's the way I grew up, with people I grew up around, for hustlers, con artists, people that game the system, who cares about Mel Tucker. This woman don't care about this, but 30 years to get this great opportunity, but she knows the environment we're in. Jim Trotter knows the environment we're in. And that's wrong, man. Just like the act itself of sexual assault or any type of racism of that matter. But just telling you like I see it, folks. Saban may pull the plug. Pickle says he may pull the plug this year. He very well may. I mean, he has nothing to prove. He's 7-time national championship. He'd like to tag on some bonus because he's only one ahead of Bear Bryant. I want to say he's got 6 national championships. I thought he would win a national championship. They still might. Now, the playoff is spread out more next year. As far as college football is concerned, I think we're in an environment where the college game has got to be the college game is going to be more like the pro game, where it's become more and more about field position, coaching of time management. You can't just overwhelm teams. It's going to be more about having less penalties, having specialists here and there, the kicking game. It's going to be so much like the NFL. Only thing difference now is they don't stop the clock after first downs anymore. And I guess Pickles, the next thing would be to move into hash marks like the NFL and just make it totally like the NFL. They're already going to have a 12-team playoff, but misusing something for your own good and doing somebody. I just think it's bad karma. I don't believe in doing people like that again. So, but anyways, folks, if you like the show, share the show. Let me see. I think I may have a few other notes here. Great game coming on tomorrow night, by the way. I think. Philadelphia, Minnesota. A lot of injuries there. Looks like Bradbury might not play. That's the other corner. But Minnesota's going to have their center out, I want to say. Their center for Minnesota is going to be out, which means Jalen Carter could feast off of Kirk Cousins. But I got a feeling good weather early in the season. This could be a pretty high-scoring game. I do like Philadelphia tomorrow. I'll talk about it before we start the fantasy stuff tomorrow. But it'll be a pretty good game there. It could be a game that goes on the over. It could go on the over. And the spread is down to 6.5 for Philadelphia. Now, if it's under 7, actually, I think that's a pretty good spread there. But and I think that Jordan Addison could have a really good game because he would be the opposite. Darius Slay's obviously going to be on Justin Jefferson, per se. So, interesting stuff here, folks. I thought I had another I have a note here. And here's on a good note. I know that's the deep stuff, but Darren Ravel reported the most expensive ticket in college football this weekend will be Colorado, of course. I'll say this. And I may touch on this tomorrow. I may break down Tennessee and Florida. Some are calling for an upset of Tennessee. I think Tennessee's they're not great, as good as I thought they were going to be, but I think Florida's worse. Okay, here's Nick Saban. Nick Saban says if guys want security in their position, they need to play well. So that's a hint this other guy may play. There was another report here, some good news here. Sharm Sharamia, NBA Board of Governors, has approved a new policy that a team is unable to rest 2 star players in the same game moving forward. A star player defined as someone has made the All-Star game and an All-Star team the past 3 seasons. So that whole load management stuff on the national televised games here will be something interesting. And the NFL says they will spend practice squads for all 32 teams next year to include 1 international player, helping create more opportunities for players around the world. They're wanting to, build this thing out. So either way, and Tariq Cohen's coming back. He signed with the Carolina Panthers. So kudos to Tariq Cohen. Been out, ACL, MCL, been hurt for the last couple years here. A little dude, but he's tough, man. That's a good story here. So again, folks, I'll be back on tomorrow. Same time, same place. Pickles thinks it may be by 14. That may be true. Got to study it, though. I want to get that last-minute injury report in before we know what it is. So either way, folks, again, tomorrow, we'll be talking fantasy, startup system, daily fantasy. I'll give you all that stuff tomorrow. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you same time, same place here on Sports Scope.